So some causes of poverty, they're very similar to poverty indicators when you start thinking about it, but these are things that can cause poverty. Well, you'll see as we keep going forward. Someone is out of a job, they could likely fall below the poverty line. Why? Because not having a job will make you poor. Because if you don't have a job, you probably don't make money. So if you're, just like right now, and I don't want to make light of the COVID-19, but I keep saying COVID, the corona, I guess I'm being all professional and stuff tonight. Some hair. So if you're out of a job, if somebody right now who maybe is laid off, I wish I remember that F word they were talking about the other day. But people who are laid off, or people who have been laid off without pay, would promise to get jobs back, whatever it is, you could fall below the poverty line at this point because you don't have a job. You're not making money. You can file for unemployment, but if you file for unemployment, are you making the same amount of money? Could you potentially be able to pay if you're making $600 a week, but your bills are $1,200 a week? You're going to eventually, the income is going to, the outcome is going to outweigh the income, and eventually you can fall the poverty line. And you may have to sell things off. You become homeless. You want to know how somebody becomes homeless? They lose their job and they have to sell their home, or they lose their family because they lose their job. There's just so many different ways that you can go about it. But at the end of the day, if you don't have money, you're probably going to be poor. Economists agree with this fact, this basic statement of the fact that poverty and lack of income go together. You will be poor if you don't have money coming in. You are now an economist. You're not really, but these are some important explanations for why some people are poor. Lack of education. Why does that lead to being poor? Because the better job that you have, the more education you have, the more likely that you're going to get a better job. High school graduates are going to be poor more times than college graduates are, or college attendees. College attendees are going to be poor more times than a college graduate is. Okay, first of all, a master's degree is less likely to be poor than somebody who just has it afford. The more education you have, but at the end of the day, if you have some sort of education, you're going to have a better chance. A high school dropout is more like. Now, does that mean you're going to be poor? No, there are plenty of people who didn't finish college. There's plenty of people who didn't finish high school. People who didn't go to college, and there goes Zionist. They're making great money. That's not saying it can't happen. What it's saying is more times than not, that's how it's going to happen. The less education you have, the more likely you're going to be poor. It's just odds. It's like gambling. Your location, we talked about that before, as far as living in your city, but it also could be parts of the country. There are poor parts of each state that if you live there, it is going to be harder not to be poor. There are places in the Delta that it doesn't matter. Unless you are a farmer or you have a really, really great job, if you live there, then you're probably going to be poor because there's not a whole lot of jobs, there's not a lot of opportunity. And you say, why don't you pick up and move? It costs money to pick up and move to find a new job, and so it's not always easy. And sometimes they take years or months or whatever it happens to be before you get to the point where you can make that move to try to find that job, or finding a job that's available anywhere anyway. Racial and gender discrimination. We're going to talk more about these, I think, on the slides coming up. Racial and gender discrimination. You're more likely, if you're white, to have a higher paid job than an African American or a Hispanic if you're a man over a woman. It's just facts. Again, it is shifting in the other direction where things are getting more equal. That's the world that we're living in right now. But throughout history, and even still now, it is shown that if you are white, you have a better chance of having a higher paying job than if you are a minority. If you are a man, you have a better chance than if you're a woman. It's just facts. It's statistics. Not saying it's right. Economic shifts. That's going back into the economy shifting and other things. Remember we talked about before when we were talking about from farming into the Industrial Revolution into technology. It will drive people out of a job. Those shifts in the economy can drive somebody who does not change, who does not improve, who does not continue to get better at those things, or who cannot change with the times. Could possibly be living in poverty if they don't have enough savings and things like that. It's just the facts. It is not saying that a farmer is going to be poor because if he still tries to farm the same way they were doing in the 1800s, there's no way they can keep up with the demands that are going on right now with somebody who has a tractor. It's that simple. So the economic shifts, and if you don't change, if you don't try to get into technology, if I don't learn the technology, I could lose my job. What is the next thing that I will have to learn to keep me in a job? I don't know. How to fight robots. That's what I'm thinking. Shifts in family structures. Recently in time, as time's passed, you see more and more changes. Since the 1960s, you see a higher divorce rate. It's just the facts. There's more divorced houses than there's ever been. I shouldn't say more than ever been, but I don't know what the statistics are. I'd be making one of those percentages up. But since the 1960s, it's continued to grow. I am sure it's still on the upswing. Best case, maybe it's leveled out. The divorced houses, and again, the single mom with the single dad with the kid. Those things, it makes it harder in this day and age. And it's, again, because it's balancing out, it makes it harder on the male single dad just as much as it does the single mom. And so that could potentially do that. And that was something that was not necessarily an issue. That was not one of the reasons you were going to live in poverty prior to the 1960s. Average income of a high school dropout in 2000, $18,952. That was the average income of a high school dropout. Obviously, probably not what you're shooting for in life. If you drop out of high school, it could be it. Again, I'm not saying they can't go make millions being a high school dropout. I'm strictly saying based on statistics, based on the odds. High school graduates made about a third more. If you had a high school diploma, once a third of 18 was about six. So you make about $24,000 if you had high school. That would be the average, the odds that you make that much. A college graduate would make 3 times as much as a high school dropout. Was 3 times 18 times 3? You're looking at what, $40-something thousand. So you see, it's just facts. This is not something made up. More people who have a higher degree are going to make more money than those who don't. Because of the inner city being full of racial minorities, that's where you're going to have a higher poverty rate. It's just the facts. I say just the facts a lot. I don't know why. But because that's most of the time when they live in the inner cities, and that's because it's cheaper to live there when they get there, whether they're legal immigrants, whether people moving to the city. It's cheaper to live in those areas, but the jobs are further and further away, and that's just it's the reason that they're going to be poor. It's hard to get out of those areas. It's hard to move. If I needed to move from Starkville to Sturgis, it is hard to have the money to do that. That's 15 minutes. Imagine if it was more than that, and the job was there, and I had to go there, or the travel is so expensive because I don't have a vehicle or something. I could hitch a ride with somebody, but that don't last so long. They don't own cars. Look at that. That's on my cars. Right there. It's on my cars. So that means inner city people don't own cars. It's hard to get a job in the outer cities. People in the inner city do make less than people in the outer cities, again, because the jobs are further out from the inner city, further in from the country. As I mentioned before, the racial gender discrimination. White workers typically make more than the minorities. Men typically earn more than women. Most of this can be explained the difference in hours, education, and work experience. It goes back into several different things. Men are going to work when women are at home pregnant. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not saying that God doesn't let men have babies. So if somebody has this baby, then the woman may work for 9 months, but she's going to have to miss time when she has the baby. She cannot go to work the next day. Physically cannot go to work the next day. They give them 6 weeks off, I think it's 6 weeks, for maternity leave. Yes, they still get paid during that maternity leave, but they're not producing anything. There's no output going on, or the husband may still be at work. It's just the way that it is. I'm not saying it's a perfect thing. I'm saying that's the way that it works. That's why men may make more money than women. And just because they're married doesn't change anything. If she's single and not married, she's still getting paid as a woman. It's just a fact. There are plenty of men who don't make as much as women. But that is just, when you look at statistics, it's going to be like that. The education, it doesn't necessarily mean men are more than women, but racial, when you look at it, there are more white people than minorities with education. It's just statistics. And the experience hours, it's easier for a white privileged person to get a job when they're in high school, junior high, all the way through than it is a minority. It's just the facts. And so that person automatically has more experience than other people. When you think about 2 people, a man and a woman, up for a job, let's say they both want to be welders, who likely has more experience? It's probably the man. Not saying she doesn't, but probably going to be the man, and he is going to have experience before he was ever able to, because most of the time, man, not saying it's always the case. You think about nursing. Most people are going to say, what is the who is a preferred person in nursing? They're going to say a woman. That's not true. A man is a preferred person in nursing because there are not many of them, and they need to be strong. So it's a man versus woman thing, and it's not necessarily perfect, but it's just the truth.